Hey guys, Dr. Ben Galyardt here, author of the book Rebuild Your Brain, Stop the Damage, Start the Repair. And today I want to go over what we're seeing with ADD and ADHD. It's rampant. We see kids, we see adults, lots of people are dealing with symptoms of having a hard time focusing, having a hard time staying on track, being productive, whether that's in school, in the workforce, with their family, with their spouse, everything. So what is actually going on and what are we seeing and how are we helping people with ADD? So I always start with the thought of what's the underlying root cause of why somebody is having these focus issues, having this attention issue, having, even if it's ADHD, having the hyperactivity. Well, what we look for is what is the underlying root cause, and that is the true functional medicine approach. So functional medicine is all about figuring out what the underlying imbalances are. So ultimately we fix what we find. And so a few of the things that we start with for ADD, ADHD, one is going to be what is going on in that brain pattern. And the brain pattern, we're able to evaluate that via the quantitative EEG. This is what we call a brain map. A brain map, it's basically a swim cap that we put on top of the scalp. It has little electrodes, just like if you do an EKG of the heart, we're calling this an EEG of the brain. So it's checking the electrical activity of what's going on in the brain. We're not taking anything out, we're not putting anything in. All we're doing is detecting and sensing what is going on in there. So we're able to figure out which wavelengths are too high or too low in that process. So what does that mean? Well, in 2013, the FDA approved the brain map as a diagnostic tool for ADD. Specifically, they were looking for two patterns in there. One, easy daydreaming, two, hard time focusing. So we're looking for that specific pattern. But guess what? There's a lot of people that have been diagnosed ADD or ADHD that do not have that traditional pattern. And a lot of times that's why people may not have been able to get the results they want from the Ritalin or Adderall or any of the medications, or they come off and there's no change. And so ultimately we've got to figure out where those underlying brainwave imbalances are. So we're able to do that via the brain map, and then we can train that brainwave activity to do something different. The next part we look at is the metabolic piece. So what does that have to do with anything? The metabolic, well, we're talking about blood sugar, vitamin D, gut, liver, thyroid, all these different systems that can affect the brain, that can throw things out of balance, that can make it to where that brain is not going to be able to consistently stay in those right patterns. So has anyone ever gotten hangry, where that blood sugar drops and you have a hard time focusing, staying on track, you get upset, you get agitated easily, any of those things? That's what happens when that blood sugar drops. So if it spikes up, we're going to see increased inflammation, agitation, a lot of different things in people's worlds there. The next step that we look at is thyroid imbalances. Some people can have a harder time staying on track if their thyroid's off. Vitamin D is crucial for the brain to be able to function where it needs to. If it's vitamin D is too low, the brain's not going to be able to stay where it needs to in that whole side of things. So that metabolic side is absolutely crucial. And then we look at the neurological, and we're able to see, does that kid that comes in, do they still have some of the primal reflexes? Primal reflexes would be, are they still doing a rooting reflex? Do they still have a gripping reflex? If you look at what happens with babies, those reflexes should go away over time, but sometimes they don't. That doesn't let the brain develop well enough. So we have to go through and help these different systems, help these different processes to get past those points. Maybe it's their cross-crawl pattern and they didn't learn to crawl appropriately. Any of these things we've got to go through and help them. So again, you have to look at the brainwave pattern, you have to look at the neurological imbalances, you have to look at the metabolic aspect to it, and that's how we're able to change people's ADD, whether it's an adult, whether it's a child. Dramatic shifts. We see adults have ADD all the time now, and they're finally coming to grips with it, and people that have been dealing with it for 20, 30, 40 years, and it's absolutely shifted their lives on what they're able to accomplish. We're able to dial them back, get them into that focus range, and change their life. So we've got a $90 voucher for a brain map, and to sit down and review those results, let you know what we would look at as far as blood work, what that process would look like as well. So again, we try to make it as doable as possible for people, because I want to know for sure this is the type of brain that we're going to be able to help. If it is, I'll let you know exactly what I think we need to do, and we'll get you guys going from there. So if you have any questions at all, go ahead and shoot us a message through Facebook here, or send us email or call the office. Like and share this with anybody that you know that is dealing with ADD, any type of symptoms that way. But we'd love to hear from you guys.